Have you ever failed an interview and would you like to know why? I bet you would. We invited hiring managers from different tech companies to do mock interviews with anonymous candidates so they can give them honest feedback about what they did well and what they should improve. At the same time, all these managers actually are hiring. Let's see how it goes. Okay, guys, so welcome to our session number 2. This is our anonymous mock interview today. And let me show you what is gonna be for all if you are the first time here. Okay, are you able to see the slides? Right? Okay, cool. Let me. So today we have actually two managers. Chris, unfortunately, he couldn't make it today. He has some errands, but I want to introduce Enrico Bernardo. He's a vice president of software quality assurance at QA at American Specialty Health. Enrico, do you want to say hi and tell about a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here again. This is our second round of this, and looking forward to our exciting panel today and our exciting candidates. Thank you in advance to all the candidates who have, build up the courage to attend and be part of this event. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome. And we have Sergi Sparks. He's a senior software engineering manager at Oracle. Sergi, are you here? Are you with us?
Yes, Sergi is here. Hello guys.
Just a little bit about yourself, yeah.
Yeah, happy to contribute my experience as a hiring manager as different positions on the hiring queue of Oracle. And in general, we'll be happy to see those brave individuals who decided to give it a try for the mock interview.
Awesome, awesome, great, thank you. Okay, let me tell you how the format looks like. So it's pretty much straightforward. Each session will have each candidate will have about 15 to 20 minutes. And we structure each session for 3 questions. Actually, the first 2 will be strictly limited with the timing. It's tell me about yourself. We give about 1 minute. And question number 2 will be, what did you do at your last project? And tell us a little bit about your project. And number 3 will be follow-up questions from Enrico and Sergey, from myself, if it needed. And we'll give a instant feedback right after the participant session. And the format of the feedback: what went well, what should be improved, and just overall feedback. Okay, and we'll try to make it in 20 minutes maximum. Sounds good? Okay, let's get started with candidate number 1. Candidate number 1, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Hello, everyone.
Okay, cool. Let me stop sharing the screen. You can share your resume. Are you able to share your?
Yes, I can do it.
Oh, give me 1 second. I need to who can share? Okay, try it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can see
Do you see it?
Yeah, we can see it totally.
Yes, it's my resume.
All right, let's get started. Please tell us about yourself.
Okay, thank you, Evgeny, for this event. It's very interesting and helpful event, and I'm happy to see again Enrico and Sergi because I see them on another event from you. So, about myself. Now I am QA engineer, and I started off my QA career with commercial bank. My first project was online internet banking for corporate business, and I performed user acceptance testing in post-production stage. I was chosen for this position because I had a trusting relationship with my clients. I communicate and educated my customers, and I helped them with our app. In that role, a major accomplishment I'm most proud of was that I was able to identify a major bugs that allowed avoiding issue for 70,000 corporate clients. After this work, we won green card and we moved in United States, and I decided to improve my knowledge about software quality assurance, and I took base QA engineer bootcamp. It was so exciting and interesting because when we study, we participate on a real project. I worked on projects such as audio streaming service and web application for service providers.
I'm sorry, I need to stop you here.
Yes.
Yeah, because you reached out a little bit. Could you please tell us a little bit about your last project?
Okay. As part of team, I participate on grooming and planning. Also, I participate on everyday stand-up meeting. I tested throughout the entire duration of the sprint. I performed testing on different operation systems. It's Windows and Mac. I used cross-browser testing, negative and happy path testing. I made functional testing, regression testing, and smoke testing. Also, I wrote test case in Zephyr with Gherkin using requirements. When I found a bug, I checked it with GQL in Jira and created bug reports. Also, I used Chrome DevTools. For mobile testing, I used Android Studio. In my work, I wrote SQL queries for back-end testing. It was so difficult for me, but I did it. And very interesting part for me, it was API testing, and I continue to study API testing. We worked remotely, and I communicate with my team by Zoom and Slack. I like teamwork because I feel myself necessary, and I can share my experience and improve my tech skills. I understand that for this position of software QA engineer that you are hiring for, you are looking for someone with strong process improvement skill. Overall, due to my strong background and achievements, I'm confident I'll be able to succeed in this role you are hiring for. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer you. Let me know.
All right, cool. Enrico, Sergi, do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for jumping on, candidate number one. My first feedback to you is I think you've seen this event before, or you were here the last time because you came very prepared. So congratulations on preparing and really kind of, helping present that journey. That's a great example. It looks like over half of our participants today are going through a similar journey as you. So that's a really, really important thing that what you did, that where you told the story from beginning to end. So congratulations for that. So along those lines, you mentioned identifying major bugs with your previous or one of your companies. With the audience in mind, tell us about what that looks like. Why did that happen? How did you communicate it? Who did you communicate it to? And more importantly, how did that make you feel? Tell us about your feelings as you were finding these bugs.
I said that my management chose me for this position because I had trusting relationship with client. I was small business specialist, and I have very good communication skills and very good attitude with my clients, because I worked in bank, and because it was small bank and small branch, my management decided to try post-production on our branch and on my customers. And I communicate with my customers, and I help them to understand everything. And major bugs was that when company make payment for employer, one back end not connect, and company couldn't make payment for employer. It was because this app didn't check it on different device and different browsers, and
Okay.
it happened on very old computer and very old and it was I tell about it that my customers have problem in post-production, and I described it, and after that developers
How did you describe it? Can you explain a little bit more? Than...
I communicate, because on this time I was a small business specialist, and I
hold on. I mean, if you find an issue, so that means that you need to report the issue, right? How did you do
Yes.
this? Can you explain like a little bit deep in that?
I report about it to developer, because I communicate with them, and my customer, because my customer.
Okay, how did you report to developer?
I made bug report.
Mm-hmm.
And made video for developer for recognize this bug.
Okay.
On this time, I didn't know about Jira, about special tools for bug report, because I communicate with customers. I was like first person who connect with customers, and after that we.
That's fine. Don't worry. Yeah, I feel that you're a little bit stressed. That's totally okay. Don't worry. Sergi, do you have any follow-up question?
So thank you for volunteering, and I know you're nervous. It's totally fine. You have a good resume. Actually, as I understand, you have around like 1 year experience, but it doesn't look empty, because you included a lot of like relevant and tangential experience on your resume, and it looks pretty good for a 1 year QA specialist. My question to you about using like I would say not even the question, but a recommendation to put like here and there some factual data, some numbers on the resume. For example, you provided like information that you reported some amount of bugs in Jira, and then you validated some amount of test cases, and then you run some queries. Like I would like to see more like a story. So we have been like testing the product, and product has number of deficiencies. Like I reported like I don't know 25 bugs, and 15 of them have been fixed in the next release, and I validated it. So like some numbers that like highlighting your input to the general idea of improving the quality. Yeah, that's my feedback on the resume. And yeah, great performance with sharing your experience. Really good.
Thank you so much.
Enrico?
Yeah, along those lines, candidate number one, is there anything else that you can share? And either you can do it here or you can update your resume as part of your story, because you have 1 year of experience, but that doesn't mean you haven't been testing at all in your whole life.
Yes.
So is there anything that you can grab on in your whole life that you can test? So you can share, I don't know, something technical that you do at home, setting up something, I don't know, your computers or networking at home. Or maybe even as Yevgeny was asking about how to report a bug. If you had a plumbing problem at home and you're on the phone with someone, how would you report the problem of the plumbing? So when Yevgeny gave you the question, it's a softball, what they call a softball, because it's something that you should be able to hit pretty easily. You can get those kind of home skills and your experience in personal life and utilize that one. If you're reporting problems with your plumbing, maybe you'll take a picture of it. Maybe you'll describe in detail where the leaks are at. You would give the reason it was working yesterday, but it's not working now. So those kinds of bits of information, I think, is still very helpful when you get a question like Yevgeny asked, because that's really relevant to your mind as a QA engineer and your experience there. But,
thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Enrico. Okay, I'll give you some feedback about the performance, like what I did like. You prepared yourself. Your resume looks pretty fine, but I didn't get there into details. So another thing, like what you can do, as I think Sergi gave a really good point. I think you either memorized your speech or you was reading your speech. That's how it sounds. Probably you memorized your speech, and that's why it doesn't sound really natural. So I would suggest you. I mean, usually that's what I do. If I want to prepare for some pitching or something like that, yes, you have to memorize, but it should be like a conversation. It should be very natural, like you're telling this story, right? You're not reading the script. That's because that's how I felt. Like I felt like you was reading the script, and probably you didn't. Maybe you really have a good memory. So in this case, I would really suggest you do not memorize. You have to know your points, and that's how you should go, right? Another thing, like I was trying to pointing you, like, okay, when Enrico asked you about how did you report the issue, right? And you went off the topic, to be honest. So I would really suggest you to listen carefully what a manager or whoever is asking you, and be to the point. Don't go like left and right. Okay. If they asking like, how did you report? Can you give example? So you need to specify this example. And then I was asking like, okay, how did you report the issue? Then it means obviously if you're positioned for QA, you did a bug report, right? And how that looks like. And you should specify exactly what you include into the bug report. How did you write it? And how did you communicate? And actually that was another part of the question what Enrico was asking as well. And that thing we would like to hear, not about like that managers was choosing you, you know? But anyway, I know that it's a nervous process. I give you a shout out for that, and being number one, it's always, I mean, it's stressful. Good job, anyway, good job. I hope you can take the notes and do what we did. Okay, let me get, hold on. Who is it? wait, candidate number two. Let me take over there. Let me explain here because I got a question from in the chat like, oh, how can I participate in this session and so on. So if you guys came from Meetup group, meetup.com, in the description I pointing that if you guys want to participate as a candidate, you should submit your application to us so we can process that and we can put you in the waiting list or in the queue. After that, you should be joining to the Slack group and Slack chat. Alexia, could you please, or Ira, could you please post the Slack link into the chat so everybody can join there? And there is a mock interview channel specifically for that. And we do every other week onboarding session for the candidates. So this this event is publicly open to anyone. So just to process a lot of applications, we need to do this process. So please apply through the Google form, then join to the Slack, and then we do onboarding session to get confirmation that you will be participate in this session, okay? Also, if we have other managers, hiring managers in dev on QA, please reach me out. We're going to do this session every other week, twice a month, ideally. We'll see how it goes. And you are very welcome to participate as a hiring manager along with Enrico and Sergi. Okay, I think I answered all questions right now. All right, let's move forward to candidate number two. Candidate number two, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Hello.
You're ready. Okay, cool. Okay, I'll put the timer. Could you please tell us about yourself?
Yes, sure. My name is Alina. I have been in QA for the past 1 year, and
Alina, I'm sorry. One more thing. And I forgot to mention who is the participant. We have 5 candidates today.
okay.
The first 3 candidates, they are pretty new. Most of them, they are graduates from different schools, and they have less experienced. And the last 2 candidates, we're supposed to have more experience. So just a general idea. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll give you one more. Let's start it again. Please
Okay.
tell us about yourself.
Okay, my name is Alina. I have been in QA for the past 1 year, and I have worked on multiple projects for both like web and mobile application. I have good knowledge of multiple type of testing, and I am proficient written test case, documentation, and bug report. While working as an assistant general manager in a restaurant in Belarus, one of my responsibilities was helping to test and launch our new web application. During this process, I closely worked with quality assurance manager as I had a good understanding of the customer needs. And I think it's time when my interest and love for QA started. Once I decided to move in the United States, I was able to continue working on the same project as well as possible. And then I was hired for in the United States company, and I have been working with this company ever since. I graduated university as an economist. My last project, it is audio streaming service. It is simple web-based application with business model SaaS. That project develops for a web browser and mobile application. And I was responsible like review requirements, documentation, plan, prepare, test case, create suite, like smoke regression, and a report back in Jira, verify fixes, and I do all possible type of testing dependent of task. Also, I do testing in database, and my last project required perform API testing using Postman. And main goals, my last application, it is download and listen music and upload songs.
Okay, cool. I guess you covered your last project as well. Enrico, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Alina. You're actually the first candidate we've had who actually told the story of why you are in QA or what got you the interest of QA. Thank you for doing that one. Thank you for thinking that way. That's a great angle for everyone who's listening to in here. You have to relate why you are in this industry. That was perfect. Good job on that one. So you went really quickly on some of the technology around the work that you're doing. So I don't know, we have a time kind of issue. Tell me a little bit about what Gherkin is, and talk to us a little bit about what Gherkin is and why.
Mm-hmm. Gherkin language, it is technical language for IT company, because IT company, I think, use two language like freestyle language and Gherkin style. Gherkin style more technical for developer and for team, and more understandable and clearable for team.
Great, thank you.
Sergey?
Yeah, so thank you, candidate number 2, for your story. I really like to see when candidates are preparing, answering the questions on like, if you are considered to move to another company, what is the motivation behind it? If you decided to change your career and you have been getting your degrees on the earlier in your life on one area, and you switch to another, it should be like a, I would say, like a river. So every person who is listening to you, they can follow up with you, and they see if you're going to change your direction a little bit in your career, they should understand why it's changing, because it builds trust. And then when they're going to ask you questions about technologies, about skills, about experience, they will feel the relevance, why it is important that you decided to apply to that area. So my question actually, again, about the resume. So you mentioned the proficiency in quite a big number of technologies. And I assume that not every technology is the same on that list. Some you experience quite a lot, and some you just installed for a couple of things, like probably Xcode. And I would recommend if you can order the technologies in the level of your proficiency, what is the most comfortable for you, what is the most useful, and if you have a lot of experience, where do you feel yourself an advanced user, and where you just opened and started and try it out. And a question to you about your working experience. So you have been working in the last company since January this year. And I want to ask you, how do you, you mentioned that you have been testing, I assume, the automation testing, manual testing, regression testing. How do you come to the split if you have the release? How much time to spend on the regression testing, on the new features testing?
For regression testing, we spend 2 weeks. We have released one time for 2 months, per 2 months. And in regression testing, we included frequent defects, new features, more usable option for users, and included smoke test.
And do you run regression testing almost automatically, fully?
No, manual.
So if you release every 2 weeks, and I assume that, you release every 2 months, and there is some number of new features, I assume that sooner or later these new test cases will be added to the bucket of the regression test cases. So we'll come to the situation when the regression runtime will move from 2 weeks of manual runtime to the 3 weeks of manual runtime. What will be your solution to that problem?
I don't understand the problem, honestly.
So let's assume there is 10 test cases in the regression suite. And in the new release for these 2 months, we have 3 more features. So for the next regression cycle after that, our regression suite will grow to 13 test cases that we need to test manually during the regression phase.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
So in addition to testing new features, you need to continuously manually test ever growing number of regression test cases. Any ideas how to optimize this?
We can include it quality assurance automation, who can do 10 test cases automation and 3 test cases new manual.
What if you don't have the
Okay.
flexibility or the technology engineering team to do the automation? How would you answer Sergi's question, but still in the manual way? 13, and then 2 months later, now 17 or 20. What are some of the ideas on how to handle that?
I think automation test cases included like more frequent defect test cases. What impossible do manual test, impossible manual testing. We do automation, and if test cases run on several few devices, we use automation test.
Sounds good. All right, let's move to feedbacks.
Yes, I was just going to give quick feedback along those lines, candidate. So Sergey's question is a really typical and appropriate question for manual testers. And I would caution going straight to automation as the solution, because A, it's something that may be out of your control, and B, something that you may not have that flexibility or availability in your company. So there are other techniques that you can learn as part of a manual tester, prioritization. There's a lot of different techniques on focusing on things that are much more bug rich, focus on the new areas, and smoke testing on the existing areas, grouping things. So I would explore and study those areas that are under your control, because when we in QA quickly say, oh, just do automation, but we can't do it, that kind of dismisses our importance in the organization. And I would just extend that warning or suggestion to automation testers. I know we're going to have that later, hint, hint. When you start saying unit tests and then deferring that to the developers, that's that same behavior. So try to not have that in your vocabulary that, well, someone else will do this work, because you're trying to secure the position and your value in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically what I also want to add to what Enrico was saying, you have to show that you are taking responsibility and you are taking ownership for processes. So what basically Enrico's saying that, okay, yes, someone else should fix it. It's not my problem. That's, I would translate it, right? So you should say like, yeah, prioritization, you have to build a smoke suite, and maybe you should check what the, you should basically make your regression test pretty much the same amount of time. And yeah, prioritization and talking to product managers, what is the most, what should be included into regression test, right? From the new features. I would go this way. I don't know. Sergey, are you still with us? Oh yeah, you just went back.
Yep.
Can you give feedback?
So I just joined. I had issues with internet.
Okay. Can you give like we just doing a quick feedback about the total performance. Do you have any input? Do you have anything to add? Or...
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned that I like the way you present the information, because it sounds like very cohesive with your experience, and it's your career path looks very logical. So good job on this one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move forward to candidate number 3. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, please share your resume.
Okay, I will. Do you see my resume? Okay, hold on. Let me share.
No, not yet.
Hold on. Do you see now? Not yet?
We see your whole screen. Can you make it, yeah.
A little bit bigger.
No. Just can you expand your
Nice.
word? Yeah.
Do you see it better now?
I mean, we see only like. Yeah. Can you zoom out?
Zoom out.
Yeah. No, you zoom in. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to scroll down, so or I can share it with you, or I don't know. Yeah, let me do that.
No. Can you expand the? Could you please expand the word and maybe you can make it split so we can able to see the whole resume.
Maybe this way.
Yeah.
Better. Okay.
Yeah. That way it would be better. Okay. Cool. Let me put the timer. Okay. Please tell us about yourself.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank you all for your time and for your help. And my name is SC and I'm candidate 3. I've been in the IT industry for more than 2.5 years, and currently I'm working as a QA automation tester engineer in my team. And my main responsibilities are develop and maintain the test automation framework. In my current job, I'm working in an enterprise resource planning application, ERP, which allows companies to manage their fundamentals of their business. My primary programming language is Java, and also have a good knowledge and working experience with Gherkin and SQL, and some familiarity with JavaScript as well. My current project framework tools are Selenium WebDriver, Cucumber, JUnit, and in my previous project, I worked with TestNG tool as well. My framework is Cucumber, BDD, and follow page object model. I use Git as a version control and GitHub when I'm collaborating with my team members. I use Postman and REST Assured Library for API testing. I use Oracle database and JDBC to interact with relational databases. And I am using Jenkins for developing and running and regression tests. And we use in the company Jira X-Ray as project management tool and using Agile Scrum methodology. I do smoke regression integration front and backend testing. In terms of personality, I am a cross-functional team member and have a strong communication skills in my team. I am hard worker, resilient, data-oriented person, a quick learner, and also willing to learn new domains. And I like to help my team members and share my knowledge with them as well. So this is pretty much about myself. If you have any questions, I can go forward. Thank you.
Enrico?
Sergey, you want to take this one first? Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for volunteering and sharing with us your life story. Your resume is definitely impressive, and it has like, I believe, 4 or 5 pages. So it's easy to follow using the like highlighted keywords. So I would say that definitely if you put this on some searching system, it will be like score pretty high. As for the like human side, when you're trying to check the resume and find the most important information, I would say probably the second page is the most important, at least for me as a hiring manager, because on top you have a table that describes your technology, your skills, and obviously you have automation engineer experience on the first page as well. So I would recommend to put the first page, to put the second page on the first place, because it's the most eye-catching and crucial information about your career. And the last one, career summary, I would maybe even add it as the appendix in the end, because it's definitely good for recruiters to find how did you use this and that technology, but it's not super useful like to read for the hiring manager. Good. About your experience. So you mentioned a lot of relevant experience, and let me ask you a question. You mentioned that you have been working with team a lot. So can you elaborate on situation when you had to disagree with your team member? How did you come up with the approach? How to properly disagree, and what was the situation, and what you learned from that?
Okay, so you're asking me to tell you what I had when I had a disagreement with the team member, then how I solved this problem. This is your question. Did I get right?
Yes.
Or yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So since we are working with developers, right? So once I had a problem, like not we had a problem, I had a problem, but I get a bug. Then I just check the what it is. The problem. The problem is coming from my side or from the developer side, and I reproduce it, and it was a bug. Then I send it to the developers first before putting in the Jira. Then he told me, "Oh, this is not a bug." Then I sent an email about all the record and everything. Then after he saw what it is, then he told me, "Okay, yes, you're right. This was I didn't have a very big the challenge or any disagreement with my the team member, but this is like a small example so then I can bring. But what I did in this case, before I am creating a bug report on the Jira, I just send an email. Okay, this is how it is. This is what I got. Check it out. So then also I provide all the recording and the steps and everything how I proceed. Then finally, so then he accepted. So this is what I do when I have any disagreements. Just I don't get any personal the issues. Just I do what I should do. Then I provide the document. That's why we document, right? So then I just provide the documentation. So then I go from there.
Okay. So thank you so much for stating back my question. It's a really like sign of maturity when you read back the question to the person to make sure that you are answering the correct question.
Okay,
and as a follow-up to this, so imagine that even after the filing the bug report and sending the email, the person is still not agree with you. What will be theoretically your next steps?
If he doesn't, even documentation, if he doesn't accept, then that is the bug. That this is what you are asking again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. After all the documentation, all the recording, if he doesn't accept the problem, then on the email, let's say, I just schedule a meeting with him or her. Then I just on the meeting I just bring my stuff. I just reproduce the bug, and then I show, and then I just try to understand. I just look at, of course, the user stories and requirement. Okay, then let's try to understand. How do you understand and how I understood? So then I can talk with him. Then maybe we didn't we missed something on the requirement. If we are on the same page, then we are going to solve it. If still the problem goes on, then I just schedule another meeting with PO. Then we can come together and to clarify the issue. This is how this is going to be my approach.
Yeah, it's a good one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So looks like you have a few years experience under your belt, so I'll jump into a bit of the resume feedback. My two bits of advice, you know, you illustrated it quite well in here with zooming and unzooming on your screen, even though that's not going to be the case in the real world. Your resume is probably too long. So your verbal summary and the story that you told us was very crisp and to the point. And I think you can do something similar to that in your resume. So I would suggest, you know, a good guidance is squeeze it into one page, maybe 2 pages at most. And I know that's very challenging, so that would be my feedback on your resume. The other thing is, I do remember one of our meetups where one of the hiring managers mentioned bold words. It's actually quite dangerous to have bold words. I know we see a lot of resumes that come around with bold words. It tells a different story. Once again, you know, depends on how you wrote this resume and who you reviewed it with. There's a lot of words in here, so I assume someone reviewed this along with you. I would get rid of the bolds. It just sends a different message. So if you can do that, that would be, I think, really powerful, because the resume is an introduction to you in a very quick way, and it should take only about 15 seconds to look through it. The other thing is you're presenting yourself as a very strong SDET, so I would be prepared to do code. When you interview with someone, they're going to have you do some code or pseudocode. They're going to have you do examples on your Selenium work. They're going to have you do API calls and assertions. So just make sure that you're ready to do that when you're interviewing, and all the way down to even basic computer science type questions when you're doing your work. So, but yeah, lots of technology, lots of experience. My question to you is, tell me about your PR process.
Okay, tell me about what was the question again, sir? I don't get it now.
Your PR process. You mentioned using GitHub. So tell me a little bit about your pull request process. What do you do?
Okay.
And who checks it and things like that?
Okay. When I request the pull request, then our team lead, our test team lead, do this, and then after then I can pull the code and I can push the code.
Have you done it the other way, where someone asks for you to do it, and if someone asks you to do a PR review, what would you do, and what kind of feedback would you be looking for?
Oh, so that if the question is if my code has a mistake, let's say, right? And then
or the other way around. Sorry, the other way around. Someone else is asking for your help and your review. What are some of the things that you would be looking for when doing a code review of someone else's code?
Oh, okay. So that I'm working with in the same group, right? You
Sure.
are asking me the code, the script. I mean, I'm checking the script.
Right.
Yeah, like with one test case, and I'm like checking is it correct or not, right?
Right.
If I'm in the am I in the GitHub, or if I'm in my branch, you know, checking it. I didn't get it. I'm sorry. I understand
okay.
the question.
So someone on your team is asking for you to review their code.
Okay.
What type of feedback would you check for? What would you look for in their code, and what type of feedback would you give them?
Okay. I check the script. I mean, first of all, I should know the test case, what the test case is. I like to look at the test case first, step by step, and then I ask that is it done manually, or I do manually. I mean, or I ask them to do. Then if it works on on the application, so then I just get back a script, and then I just run it. I mean, if it works, and if it is, for example, validation, one test case, and if it pass and if it works, then it pass, right? But if If it fails, then I decode the decode. I just decode the script and just try to find if there is any logic issue, or if there is any in the writing, a mistake in the writing the code. I just go line by line and try to find the mistake. This is what I do. So,
Okay,
but
great.
in the
Thank you.
team,
Yeah.
so that the test, the lead, does for the others.
Okay,
But this is what
great.
I can do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move with the feedback really quick. I just want to say that, for my opinion, yeah, I would move forward for the next step. And definitely the next step would be coding, coding challenges, so coding interview. That what we definitely should be expect. But I think for the first, for initial interview, you sound pretty solid. Yeah, and the same thing with bold words. I agree with Enrico. I used to have the same, not mistake, but I used to have the same thing. Like my resume had bold words, and definitely it's like you answering to be asked about those bold words. Basically, you, if we would do interview, I would definitely would go with all these bold words that you emphasize and asking them specifically and deeply. You should be able. I mean, you should be able to answer them without any hesitation.
Okay, thank you.
Enrico, you want to add something, Sergi?
Yeah, no, it's you are already on your way as an SDET. I'm excited to see what your next journey is. You seem to have a lot of experience already kind of on the system level side of things, UI automation, API tests. So, I'm hoping and that the company that you're in continues to push you. You mentioned a test lead. Obviously, that's why I asked about your ability to provide feedback. At some point in your career, you're not going to be always receiving feedback, but the opposite. You should be the one providing feedback. So that's kind of the train of thought of why I was asking you in that direction. And you started to switch your mind that way. So that's good. So and then as you progress, you've got to figure out how to move to the left in how you're doing your automation. What does it mean to do even faster automation? Because Selenium and things like that tend to be a little bit slow. So yeah, looking forward to seeing your career grow. You've got the skill sets.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, and as you're going to work in this company or in another company, I would expect that at some moment you will be one of the more senior engineers in the team, and others will be like looking for you to some advice. And I would say follow up on the PR question. People like more junior engineers, they're not only looking for you to see if you are able to run their code and if it's working, but also they're like inherently asking you, hey, take a look on my like 4 cycles, take a look on the way I'm calling the objects. Maybe there's some advices that you can give me to make it faster, to make it more stable. Like not only the like code is like Boolean working or not working, but the quality of the code. And yeah, like as you'll be more experienced than others, I would say they have been looking on you like in your direction to wait for some qualitative advices.
Okay, thank you. Okay, like code redundancy, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, great. Really like it. Okay, we have 2 more candidates. Candidate number 4, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank
All
you.
right, cool. And by the way, yeah, our volunteers told me actually all participants are experienced, so I'm mistaken. Okay, let's start. Give me 1 second. I'll put the timer.
Sure.
Candidate number 4. Okay, let's go. And please tell us about yourself.
Okay, so basically, are you able to see my screen first?
Yes.
Okay, great. So basically, initially, I'll like to introduce myself, but before that, I'd like to thank Evgeny for this opportunity and the panelists for doing this. So I started as a software engineer after doing my master's in computer science. And then over the period of time, I switched to QA. So I have been in QA field for some time, doing mostly manual testing and some automation testing, and then different types of manual testing that we have nowadays. And initially when I started, it was basically in the what you call waterfall development model. Excuse me, but later on it became and now most of the companies use agile scrum. So that's what last few companies that I have worked have been using. And then it's been mostly testing the web-based applications, some Windows client server based applications, and some mobile applications. And also part of it was also regulated in some regulated companies and some were non-regulated companies. Initially, when I started, it was a maintenance, repair, and overall software company. And then later on, it was a medical billing company, and then debt collection. And last few were bank scheduling software, and most recent was a medical device again. So, so it shows like I have worked in different industries, and I feel the industries work different ways. Even the procedures they follow, the test cases, standards, and whatever is with respect to the QA field is so different in different industries. And also, I would say that I have done some API testing. The tools that I've used for automation are coded UI. I have some knowledge of Postman, but not, I would say, as a professional level, but I'm familiar with Postman in general. And then I have used SOAP UI also, and I have some knowledge of Selenium as well, but not to the level that I will say I've used it professionally. So that's my overall background over the period of time. And then talking about the last two projects, I would like to combine the last as well as the one before that, because the last one was a short term and it ended earlier due to the COVID. And then, so basically the last company, like I said, was a medical device company where it was basically a medical software where you had to I couldn't reveal much here, but it was basically a software related to heart. And then what I did there, I will talk about that more instead of software because of the reasons that you already know. So writing test cases, test plans, and then what they used to call them was test protocols, and also using Postman and SOAP UI for doing the API testing. And some testing part was also with respect to SQL, like doing some database testing also. So that was the last project. But before that, I had a longer duration. The company that I worked for, that was basically a bank scheduling software where I was doing both manual and some automation testing, and where basically I wrote test cases. It was 2 week sprint cycle. So first week was basically in developing the test cases, and then finally writing, testing that in the second sprint cycle. And the teams would be most likely the same teams, but sometimes because of the workload, the teams might be switching to different projects. And basically, as far as automation, it was a coded UI, and it was developed off page object model. So the coded UI is basically a Visual Studio based, Microsoft based software for automation. It's similar to Postman, but it's from Microsoft. And then also I was like, they didn't have a dedicated Scrum Master. So I had an opportunity to be a rotating Scrum Master. So everybody got an opportunity there, which was really nice. So that exposure was also nice. And basically talking to team members and sorting out, doing the test case peer reviews, and also making sure that the test cases were similar. But however, I would like to point here is that test case reviews have been different at different companies. Some companies do it with other peers, like your peers, like test persons, or some companies, they do it with product managers, or maybe from business analysts. And also the documents from business side also have been different in my cases. Sometimes there have been use cases, and sometimes there have been like use stories in the Jira maybe. So that's like a general overview of what I have done so far. Hopefully that was clear. I'm a bit nervous, so pardon my blabbering a bit.
All right, cool.
Go for it, Sergi.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we're all looking now on the resume, I will jump on the few things that I want to highlight.
Mhm.
So first of all, thank you for mentioning the versions of the technical skills. It's quite important not just to say like you have been using Oracle or MySQL database, but also like which version, what depth of knowledge. It's definitely a plus to have it here. In a couple of bullet points on the company tour especially, you mentioned what was the effect and that, for example, 35% of these cases was in the regression. It's eye-catching. Like it's very good information to share because you understand that like the reader of the resume will understand that you are aware that not everything should be in the regression test. How many people was in the team also important, and I like that when you listen to the person and you still have resume in front of you, and
Mhm.
even like unintentionally you're going back and forth checking the bullet points, checking the numbers, and you see like the numbers here make sense, they're good numbers. What I heard a couple of times when you mentioned that you have been using this and this tool, but not really professionally. And you did it a few times. And like, I would say like, don't be afraid to use tool not professionally. For example, in my coding experience, I have been using JSON and XML a lot, but my experience with them was not professional. Like I didn't develop my own schema. I didn't re-implement some JSON rules. I was a user on the user level, and it's fine. Like most of us using a lot of technologies not on professional level, and like just try not to highlight the items that is decreasing your value.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, and this is my feedback.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm making a note of it too.
Yeah. So a little bit of feedback for you because it looks like you do have quite a bit of experience. There is a figure of speech that we say here in the United States, and it's called jack of all trades.
Mhm.
And some people, when it stops at that figure of speech, they say jack of all trades. It sounds positive, like, oh, you can do a lot of different things. The second part of the figure of speech is actually quite negative, master of none. So keep that in mind as you're presenting yourself or your resume, that there's a lot in here. You know, you've using Sergei's previous analogy of the river, it is a river of stories which you've told, but it is going left and right, left and right, left and right. So, you know, you start as an engineer, now you're a QA engineer, now you're a consultant, you've led people, and you have all these tools. So, you know, with that in mind, and that's, I mean, you literally look like you've touched upon a lot of different things. So a little bit of depth would be good to have. So my question as a follow-up to that one would be, what will you do when you know, when you kind of, after you want to be, what's your future goal? What's the future end goal for you and your career?
Yes, so that's a good question because future goal has been changing with times, with new technologies that have been coming in. So I would not say set up one future goal. Right now, overall, I would like to be in QA field, but over the period of time, I would like to be a product manager because gaining the knowledge in one specific field, that way I would present that as an opportunity to become a product manager. So I would say that would be my goal.
Okay. Yeah, and so fair enough. You know, and of course, this is a mock interview. Fair enough. I actually like your answer that you say I don't have a future goal, because that's a kind of a trick question. We should always have goals that evolve and grow and over time, right? We don't want to say, well, I'm going to become exactly like a QA engineer forever, or an SDET forever, or something like that. And obviously this is a mock interview, but just a bit of a warning, if you're applying for a QA position and you said you want to become a product owner is your goal, 9 out of 10 times you might not get the job. So thank you for being honest, but just a bit of caution in there that more than likely you won't get the job if the job that you're going to get is not what you really wanted. So
That's true.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, totally. I want to add here, definitely. if you want to be a PM, you should apply for PM, not for QA.
Yeah.
Right, that's true.
Thanks for being honest. Yes.
Yeah, but if you kind of think about it, yeah, it's a no-go. It's a red flag right away.
Yeah, that's true. But like I said, it's not immediately. It's over the period of time.
No. Even if you will say that, it's not immediately, but you will say that during the interview.
Right.
So you give them attention that you're not supposed. You will be switching jobs pretty soon.
Okay.
And switching jobs maybe like next 6 months. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you as a candidate here in this meetup is actually very critical. It's very important. There are, I don't know how many people on the audience now, people listening to you. So it's good for you to express this, right? And this honesty, but hopefully it helps educate those listening. That's part of the purpose of this meetup, is to educate the others. Maybe this makes them not make a similar mistake, or if they really were kind of on the fence, as Evgeny said, apply for the PM position. Go for it. Don't try to kind of evolve your way into it.
I'll give you
because
some
the hiring managers will see it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give you some spoiler here. So we want to expand our max interview sessions, not only for QA but also for dev, and then for PM positions. I'm just in the middle of conversation with another professional. He is actually specialized in the resume, so he can help people to transition from one profession to another, from QA to PM, or from dev to PM, and vice versa. Actually, we have a lot of people who is actually transitioning from PM to QA, and we have people who is transitioning from PM to dev as well. So this is a very interesting. I'll give you some spoiler.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, we have last candidate for today, candidate number 5. Are you ready? We cannot hear you. You are muted. Can you unmute yourself? I can.
Sorry about that.
Okay, cool. Cool. Let me give a timer.
Can you see my resume?
Can you a little bit zoom out?
Oh. Okay.
Because we can see the first, the top, and we cannot see.
How about now?
I think, yeah, we can see. Can you scroll down a little bit?
Okay. Like
No, all good, don't worry, yeah.
Okay.
Looks, I can see it. All right, please tell us about yourself.
So, hello everyone, I'm candidate number 5 today. Thank you managers for taking the time to be here. Really appreciate it. So, I actually have been working in IT for many years, or IT consultant to be exact, and actually started out as a developer, but moved into testing. And one particular time I was on the bench, and there was an opportunity that came up for a testing project. So I decided to take it, not really knowing much about testing. And ever since then, actually, I love the role. I love testing. So since then, I worked on many projects, again, with a need to adapt and learn with each assignment. Again, most of those projects are manually based, range from validating front-end, UI, back-end, logs, reports, including the database, and even a few projects where I actually work on ETL assignments where I actually had to write complex SQL scripts. And this is why I came to appreciate how much you can write with SQL. It's just like any language. But of course, doing all this process, actually getting involved with the end-to-end QA process with the project team. And along with all those manual testings, I actually had a few chances of working on automation assignments. And this is actually where I rediscovered that I actually like working as a developer, because with automation, it involves a lot of scripting. So on these projects, I happen to work with automation testing using VBS script, such as UFT, QTP, and then actually one that uses Python. So right now, actually, on my free time, I try to learn more about Python because, again, what about Python and nowadays because I can practice Python on my machine. Again, there's so much libraries, modules I can leverage in YouTube. But moving forward, I'm very comfortable with manual testing. But again, I believe I happen to be really good with working with data. And again, SQL, it's a manual tester. But again, I like to get more involved with automation because again, it has that balance of going back into coding or scripting, which I still enjoy. Should I just go ahead into my last project?
Sure, please.
Yeah. So my last assignment actually happened to be a ETL-based project. So again, manual. Again, we go through a 2 weeks sprint cycle. Again, the typical agile based methodology with various different meetings. Again, I'm not gonna go into those details, but again, agile based. And again, the project itself actually can be divided into 3 parts. ETL testing, validating the actual application, the framework, the UI and the design. And then lastly, validating the application actually resides in MS Excel spreadsheet. So validating the business functionality and the data behind it. So I'll start with the ETL testing. So ETL testing, pretty much I have to start with understanding the mapping documents, making sure I understand how mapping documents, how all the data are supposed to join together. If I don't understand it, I reach out to the DBA to further explanation. But once I understand the process, I start to create my SQL scripts. And from there, I would actually execute the data or the script. And again, the objective is to making sure what I created matches with the data in the target table created by a developer. Again, the easy process is when everything matches. Again, if there's an issue, then I would actually reach out to a developer to actually walk through the process together and say, hey, I have this observation or discrepancy that needs to be further looked into. And we would actually resolve that together. Again, sometimes we may need to go back to the DBA to actually refine the mapping documents better for more concise explanation. Other times, actually, the issue may not be an actual scripting on my side or developer side. It's more has to do with lack of data or not enough data to fulfill a certain, I say, mapping profile. So again, I will raise a observation, and again, if the management team decides that's not an issue, then we move forward. If not, I request to have the mapping document updated as needed, and at the same time, reload the data, redo my script, and then rerun the test. So that's the first part of the test, first part of the project. Second part is actually once the code's been deployed, the leader would actually move that into a staging library. My team, including myself, would actually extract the code from the staging library. Again, keep in mind, this is an Excel spreadsheet. So with an Excel spreadsheet, we have a front end functionality and the data is actually embedded in the back end. So, and once we start testing, the first part is actually validate the framework, non-functional requirements. Validating framework looks like the way it's been designed. Second part is actually validating the actual functionality and the data. So usually I would go about validating the data that's been embedded into the document, into the spreadsheet, matches with the target data back in the O or in the database. When that's done, we move into the actual the business functionality or the Excel functions. Again, leveraging going back into the design documents, making sure everything is in sync. Again, if there's an issue, raise an issue, write an issue, connect with the DB or connect with the developers to work it out together. Again, this whole process actually repeats pretty much more or less every 2 weeks until we finish our stories.
Interesting. Enrico, Sergi, do you have any follow-up questions?
I was just going to ask real quick. It's actually interesting. I'm looking at your education, and you highlighted a UX design
Yes.
type of program, and you speak a lot of the database. So it's kind of an interesting, you know, from the front all the way to the back kind of story in there. Tell us a little bit about that, you know, what interests you on the UX part of things or design part of things.
So actually, I had some time. So I guess I'll just be a little bit more transparent. So a couple of years back, I was I let go from my company, and I was given the chance to, I say, go into something new. And I thought, oh, UX design, and I never really know what it is, and it looks interesting, so I decided to get into it. And so what I enjoy about UX is actually almost like QA, because there's a lot of involvement with the entire project team, especially the stakeholders. And what I learned in Similarity is like actually the close collaboration with everyone. Again, one thing about UX is like there's a lot of initial investigation to understand what the customer wants, or actually not just understand that, understand what the customer want without really knowing what they actually want. So do interviews, discussions. Part of the QA process, what I like is like, I look at it holistically, where again, not just looking at the design documents, but understand what the alternate goal is, like end-to-end delivery of what this project is supposed to be. So going back to UX, what I end up taking away is like, I find there's a lot of similarities between UX and QA, and UX actually can be more technical. So, but end result is I decided not to continue with UX because I still like QA because of the technical aspect of it. But again, because when I learned UX, I retain what I learned and actually try to take what I learned and apply to my new QA projects.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. What I want to highlight for like probably others to like take a note that you have extremely long experience, and you managed to compress your experience in the 1.5 pages of the resume instead of like writing about like each and every technology and application and like all other things. You still managed to do it like in 4 lines, and this is really crucial for people like with 3, 4, 5 years experience and above to be able to compress it when you feel it's not anymore beneficial to describe every single like detail.
Yes.
So it's a good job.
Thank you.
Also, the resume is really easy to read because you have the sections, and inside each section you have between 3 and 5 bullet points. I would say that this is
Sorry?
3 and 5 bullet points because
Sergi, we miss you like for
yes.
one couple seconds. Can you
Okay.
say it again?
I will say it again. So your resume has bullet points, and each paragraph has between 3 and 5 bullet points. I would say that this is really important to have this between 3 and 5, because you can read them and you can have the cohesive picture. When you have like the full paragraph, the whole page, it's really hard to follow like what they're trying to say. But here is like really easy to read and easy to follow what is happening there. I have a couple of questions. So I see that company number 2, where you have been working for more than 20 years. Is it
Yes.
your own consulting company that you started and
No,
you have been doing the services?
It's a large service technology company.
Okay.
So as I mentioned earlier, I was, you could say either lucky or unlucky, but I won a lottery back then. So I just pretty much needed to move on, and that's why I ended up taking the UX class.
Yep, makes sense. You also mentioned that you have been like actively, passively looking while doing your main job in some other technologies like Python. Can you like share your approach and experience? Maybe you have been considering to apply like Python skills or any other skills that you would like to try on the pet project or on the hobbies?
You know, initially, yes. It took me a while to actually get into it because I didn't really know how to get started with Python because there's so much information. So initially I started reading books, and I wasn't really going anywhere because I can practice the syntax or I guess the logical syntax provided in Python. That got me a little bit, but so I started to kind of look into YouTube. But again, that kind of get me a little bit further, but I wasn't really feeling satisfied. So I ended up creating pet projects where I look at my past manual testing projects, how I can actually apply that into my Python. So some of my past manual projects were actually I have to read from an initial flat file. I think it's a flat file, not a CSV. So I end up my own pet project. Actually, I would initially start have my pet project read it off from a actually CSV file and process those data into a web page. And I end up again using that file to do, I say, searches. And actually, once I find a search, extract the information and save it into a separate CSV file. So again, I try to leverage my past experience where I actually past manual testing experience and leverage that into a Python project, my pet project of my own. So actually that gets me much further than just following through either books or YouTube videos.
Yep, that's extremely like a good approach. One recommendation for like all folks that are trying to like learn something on the side. Let's say that you're doing automation, like regression testing or some manual testing reports, and you have been reporting them by email or by the like Excel document.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to offer to your manager, like, hey, manager, can I learn a little bit of Python? Can I use maybe like a Django to start my own server? And I will try to beautify our reports. So pretty much you're pitching the idea of learning new technologies that you want to learn for yourself to improve one of the like manual steps on your work. And I will say that most of the managers will be happy to allow you to spend some additional time at work learning something that you want to use as a hobby to improve the work reporting.
Okay. Thanks.
And my feedback to you, and first of all, congratulations for winning the lottery, or condolences, depending on how much is left.
Yeah.
And so my initial review of your resume, once again, very well done. A great example for everyone in the audience of really what an appropriate resume should be like. To me, it stands out that you are a database engineer, an ETL engineer. So, and actually, I like that you had UXD in here because of the way you presented your resume. There is quite a bit of styling and usability in how you wrote it. So kudos to that one.
Thank you.
You have a further story to tell in here, and maybe you just need a little bit of one more piece in here. You are already on your way to some sort of data scientist type or data analyst position, whether it's paired with your Python or some of your analysis. You have Cognos experience, you have ETL experience, your source to target mapping skill sets are strong. You need to play those cards because that's what you've done for the past 20 some odd years, and maybe that's just the missing key to you. And frankly, if you can tell that story, they pay very, very well. So that's my feedback to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe please, if you can continue along those trains of thought, what were your thoughts on that path?
Well, the fact you mentioned about data scientists and data analysts, I mean, when I look back on my last few projects or a few projects I worked on, I really enjoy the aspect of, I guess, managing and processing data. Again, ETL sometimes can be very frustrating, but just working with data itself, actually, I enjoy that. And I'm glad, I guess, you're able to see that in between the lines. And just like what Sergey, is that, you're right. I had a very difficult time trying to condense everything I've done into this. It took me a few iterations to get to this format. But again, I really want to focus on, I guess, next project or future project will be something with data, again, / automation. Because again, I really enjoy the aspect of Python and data, and I guess mixing all these technology together and be able to share my skills.
Yeah. And don't forget, Google University and YouTube University are very good.
Okay.
They're all free, right? So.
Yeah, I would add something here too, that this resume definitely targeting for specific positions. And as Enrico said, it's targeting for anything which is related to data. And I mean, you have pretty impressive experience with database. So that's I would say it's you're targeting very narrow, right? If you want to apply for Q animation, I would say you need to redo resume or like to add it specifically for Q animation. But it depends on what exactly positions you're targeting. And it looks like you are targeting that way. Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. Sergi, do you want to input something or you good?
No, I think it's really good, really impressive. Thank you so much, candidate number 5.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
Cool.
once again.
Let's do poll. I mean, for today we got all 5 candidates. Let's do quick poll, and then Sergi and Enrico, do you have like maybe 10 minutes? Enrico left. I just would like to do summarize like about the whole participation, and maybe we can give some summary feedback towards to all. Sergi, what do you think? What do you have?
Yeah, let's
Right?
do the poll.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let's do the poll. The poll is basically which candidate did you like, and obviously they have all different experience. The last 2 candidates, they were more experienced, but I really like. I mean, I will not say who do I like. Do not want to spoil. 1 second. Okay, let's end the poll, and I'll share the results. That's very interesting. And now view the polls. Okay. As I thought, candidate number 5 got the most, but candidate number 3 was also very interesting. That's I would say for candidate number 1 and candidate number 2, you have a room to grow, and that's what you should do. Okay, let me stop sharing. All right, let's do a quick summarize. I think today session was pretty interesting. We have different candidates. What I can say, like, basically, preparation is the key to any interview, and looks like most of you guys was prepared for that. Sergi, what do you think? Any suggestions?
I would definitely recommend to try, like, if you have the target company that you want to go to, make it not like in the first 5 of your attempts to do the interview. You'll be surprised, like that in the first like 5 sessions of interviewing with somebody, you learn so much. But after the like interview number 6, 7, 8, 9, it's kind of plateau, and you become like really experienced in the stuff that you know. And of course, there is like a company can ask something unexpected, and you just cannot be prepared for that one. I would say like attend the meetups, pitch your resume, show your resume to other people, and if you're looking to change for a job, try to go for like some companies that might be not your like ultimate shortlist, just to practice, because practice of the interview skills It's your ability to sell yourself. It's your ability to express, for example, if you're going through transition from the manual to automation, many people will ask about your motivation. And you need to be prepared to tell the story. And you will see by reaction of the interviewer if the story is sounding good enough, believable. If the person can agree with you, like, aha, I see why you're doing this. Very good. So practice and practice.
Yeah, 1 second. I am trying to add Enrico. Yeah, Enrico, we just we just do a quick summary about the whole thing.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I just got back. Sorry, it was looping me back to the viewer mode, so I'm glad I was able to get back into this view. Yeah, so practice.
We just do summary, like maybe some suggestions and.
Yeah, I think there was a great pattern in what we were seeing in today's candidates. It was interesting about that journey. Some showed a really nice journey, and some, we had to kind of share with them that journey. So I think that's the takeaway for today's interview is each of you should ensure that you have a journey, and that journey doesn't have to be in a job. That journey can involve, technology or experiences in what you do in your life, personal life, previous jobs that are not specific to QA. Find those nuggets and make sure you can bring that and introduce that into your interview, and that will help a lot. So that's
right. I would say, like, record yourself. This is the best thing what I did when I was practicing. Recorded the video, and you see like your patterns, and obviously ask your friends or whoever to do similar mock interviews. But you need to apply, and you need practicing, obviously, and that's pretty much it. You guys can ask questions. We pretty happy to share with some answers or questions. I see the question from Kathy. She's like, how can I do a mock interview? If you guys want to join the similar session as a candidate, please check the description in the meetup.com, or if you're in the Slack, check the general channel. There is instructions what to do. You basically need to fill out the short Google form, insert the link to your PDF resume, and to participate in onboarding session for candidates. So to make this process smooth, that's pretty much it. I also, Enrico, think like maybe I would really like to add coding interview here, or like coding practicing maybe. Sergi, what do you think? Like maybe we can do 2 rounds of the interview. I would really like to move forward with I don't remember the candidate who had as that position experience, and just practicing. I think that would be also valuable.
Yeah, and there's code share platforms that they can pseudo code and everything like that. That would be, I think, a good experience for the candidate as well as for the audience of what type of coding questions could come up in an interview. And that would be an interesting one for some of our more experienced SDETs.
Yeah, let me think about it. Maybe we will do another round specifically for SDETs who want to apply for that position, and maybe that be also very valuable. Yeah. Also, I remember from the last our session, there were a question like, how can I transition to a leading position, or from QA to, how can I apply from QA to QA lead, or from QA lead to QA managers? Sergi and Enrico, you have more experience with that. Can you also give some piece of advice? You got my question?
Yeah. Sergey, you want to go with that one first, or?
Okay, it's a tricky one. So I would say that most people actually think that if you go to the like manual testing, it's a first step. Then you're supposed to go to automation. Then you pass as going through the development or team lead to the manager. I would say it's not always the case, and especially like in the big organizations, if you want to be a junior manager, you can be one. There is like no prerequisite to be like if you want to manage a team of testers that you need to have like 10 years testing experience. It's valuable, but if you feel that you want to go into management, like go now, like get a degree or get maybe participate in the leadership groups, like organize your own like meetup, maybe go to some other initiatives groups where you can show your leadership and test if you like it. But like I wouldn't say that like it's ultimate goal. Many people actually don't go into management and they end up in being like a guru, like a architects or principals, and they're totally fine with this. So that's my take.
Yeah, and I would say depends on the company. So, you know, if you're fortunate to be in a company right now, one of the questions you should ask is, what is the career ladder? Certain companies, career ladders progress from junior engineer, as Sergi said, all the way up to, you know, some sort of automation architect. And then maybe if it tops out, then they're like, well, we'll just make you a manager. So that's one career path. In other companies, like in my company, the career paths are completely separate for management or for leadership, people leadership to technology leadership. So if you're in a company like that, then it doesn't make sense to keep on moving up in the trajectory of technology if your intention is to be a leader of technologists. And that being said, two ways to get into the leadership track, I think, if I were to kind of put it into something objective. Number one, ownership. When you are comfortable taking ownership, taking responsibility, making decisions, no matter how small, and those decisions will grow. That's one sign of that way to get into the leadership track. And then two, getting the eye of your current leaders with that ownership. When they recognize and when they see you take that ownership, more than likely they will pull you into that track, because it is a little bit harder to get people into that role. So to me, that's how I would work on getting into a leadership track, is making sure you have complete ownership of whatever it is you need to own and a little bit more, and then getting the recognition from the people around you that you have that ability to do that.
Awesome, great. We have 2 questions. Let's do this one and we can wrap it up. Any tips in securing information on interviews at companies? I'm not quite understand the question. Like,
Yeah, maybe Amy can give us a little bit more information on that.
Amy, you can ask the question by voice. Would you be able to do? Just hit plus in the chat. When you're doing this, Gabriel also asking, what is your suggestion for the 9% of people who are transitioning from another field on developing a story for why you want to be a dev? Do you have any general advice? Also, kind of, we need more, probably more info, like, basically, I don't know. Do you guys, I think that Gabriel is asking if you are not in the tech field yet and you want to be a dev or you want to be a QA, what is the general story you want to have, if I got it right?
Well,
I mean,
I
go
can
ahead.
That it's definitely not advice like what to put in your mouth and what you should say to your like interviewer. It definitely should come from you. But when I'm listening to somebody who is like describing that he was like in the history major, let's say in the Stanford, and he decided to switch to development, I'm like asking why, and sometimes I'm hearing like a pretty like logical things. Like for example, the person was trying to see how to improve something, that in our department in like university, we have been doing over and over manually these things. But I questioned this, like why we are doing this manually. And my manager told me that we don't have money to buy a program. And I asked like my, I don't know, 21-year-old neighbor in the apartment complex, how would he do it? And he told me like, oh man, it's easy. Just do the Python script. And that's what sparked my intention. And I saw and I developed and I learned about it. So like it all comes from the like unexpected encounters. And the most important is that any change should come from desire to solve some problem. And make sure that you clearly clearly show to the interviewer what was the problem and why you're going to solve it in your any transformation of career.
And just to take that one step further, this is and this is the hardest part, is the dream versus the actual putting the actual practicality in place. I have a friend similar to Sergei's story here. I have a friend who's a physician, and she decided to transition into doing development work, but not necessarily to be a developer, but to solve some sort of problem around whatever problem or gap she had as a physician. But the big key is, after all that Sergei just said, you also have to show that you took initiative on your own to learn about the technology and actually put some practice in place. If it's a web application that you want to build, make sure you have a web page that shows about all your history books and all the other history experiences that you have, and you realize, oh, it's pretty easy for me to put together HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and something very simple like that. So not only have the dream, but also have some sort of practical example and work that you did to make that transition really helps a lot. And then one other thing is, if that's a little bit difficult, is there are people who just grow up enjoying technology, tinkering with things, robots or remote control cars or any example. And that could be the spark who, take this historian example that Sergei gave, but has these interests at home. That could be the spark of why they want to be a dev. Make sure you bring that up in your story.
Right. So basically, each story should be your story. There's no general advice, but it should be your story, logical and practical as well, I think. There is another question. Can you give an example for tricky questions for QA? I think we got a lot of interesting questions today. I don't know. You should rewatch it again. I think all tricky questions goes with how. Like if you say something, just what. Enrico and Sergi will ask you, how did you do that? And they will deep into details. So that would be a tricky question. So if you don't know how, don't say that you did that. And vice versa, I think. I don't know. Sergi, do you have something else?
Yeah, like
I think you
usually follow up to complete the deviation into the asking what was the final impact, what your action resulted in. Like let's say that you don't have the proper reporting, so you decided to write your own HTML, CSS, JavaScript website that shows your amazing reports for your team. And my question is, and what next? Did you talk to the manager of your manager? Did you share with them that your team has outstanding way to present the information? Maybe somebody took your project and bring it to another level to share with other teams. Like I'm looking for the action that leads to the great results.
And then also, just from my perspective on this one, whoever asked this question, also remember that the hiring manager or the hiring panel, we're actually really interested in hiring people. We're not doing this for fun or to trick people. On the contrary, we're really looking to hire people because we need the help, we have the budget to do it, and we have innovations to do it. So it's maybe a reverse of the trick question. If you can get comfortable that they're really not trying to trick you, they're just trying to ensure that you're the right candidate for the job, and this goes across for everyone, if you can make that transition, that no one's trying to trick you, they're just trying to make sure you're the right candidate for the job, maybe that'll give you the confidence to do well in your interviews. That's the secret. Yeah, the hiring managers actually want to hire you.
Yeah, and
They're not playing
but
games,
based on
basically,
this
yeah.
one, like unlike in yeah, so based on this one, unlike in other fields, we are like assuming from the beginning that you don't have skills, and then by asking questions, you see that aha, you have this skill, you have this skill, and as soon as you reach some threshold, we move you to another level. It's not coming like we assuming that you know everything, and we're trying to find something that you don't know, and say like, aha, you failed.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I 100% agree. Okay, let's do the last question, and I guess let you all go. How do you handle gaps in employment? That's a good one. Any piece of advice?
Oof.
I mean, I think if you have reasonable gaps and you can emphasize that, like, let's say you was raising kids, for example, right? Or so ideally, of course, for my opinion, if you can input in this gap that you just did something else besides your family or your issues, or you're trying to maintain your skills probably. If you did not, you should say, I mean, if I would be in this position, and actually I was in this position, I had gaps previously. So yeah, I was studying, and I was actually studying specifically for to getting more skills towards QA, towards engineering. Okay, and I think that should be it should be reasonable. I mean, reasonable gaps, you cannot do anything about it, and we all human, we understand. And if you're the right candidate, I think it's easy to pick it up back and get back on track. Guys?
Yeah, setting the right expectation. You know, if you are a senior and you have I don't know, I'm exaggerating, a 10-year gap, and you want to come back into a senior position, that might not be reasonable. But if you're a senior with experience and you have a 10-year gap, for whatever reason it is, but you have a reasonable expectation of coming in and kind of starting up again through the ranks, but selling the ability of saying, I have experience, I have the ability to give to you, to this company, but I know I have to kind of start a little bit lower. So that's what I can give to you. And just kind of keep on emphasizing that this is what you'll provide to the company. And just a warning on that one is try not to say, well, I'm a good learner and I hope to learn from you. Like, I have a gap and I hope to learn from you is really tough on a company. It's better to say I have a gap, but from my previous, I can give this to you. And that's how I would handle it.
Sergi, what do you think?
Well, it's a tough one again. So I would say that I had a couple of candidates and actually a couple of people that I hired to my teams who had significant like a gap like between 6 and 18 months. One of like what I'm looking for, it's for the like true story explanation. And when person is trying to explain like why the gap happened, I want to like relate my own like feelings to like this. If the person is just saying like, oh, I like for 3 years I was raising a newborn kid, I'm like, well, while you have been raising the kid, you decided not to learn about technology, nothing at all, like close, unsubscribe, and not to like be curious about anything. Like, it's hard to believe. Other person was telling to me that after working in AWS for 3 years, he had burned out after like 14 hours per day, like non-stop work. And he decided to go to South America for 6 months to be totally without internet and just to hike the mountains all the way like from the Panama to the southern point. And I'm like, wow, it's a great story. And he actually like came back fully energized. And I see the result of that gap. So I totally get it. So that like just to try to explain how it is in reality and try not to guess what I would expect from you to hear.
Totally, totally. All right, guys. Enrico, Sergi, thank you very much. And I want to say also thank you to Ira and Alexia for helping us with setting these all things up. I think I got so many useful information today. I don't know. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys on the September 5th. We'll continue doing this. We don't know who is going to be on that session as a hiring manager. I hope Enrico, Sergi can participate on that. And I'll see you all September 5th, all right? All right, Sergi, Enrico, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.